Okay guys, to start our burger dough, shall we call it, I'm going to chop up a large white onion as well as 2 large garlic cloves and 8 ounces of button mushrooms. I'm just going to roughly chop them because we're going to throw them in the oven and then blend them up so they'll cook down and then get even smaller in the blender. I'm going to toss all the veggies just onto a parchment-lined baking sheet and add a bit of salt and pepper and roast them just totally dry at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes until they soften up and get just a little bit brown. I think this makes the flavor really nice and it makes it so you don't have to add any oil because it won't stick to the pan. And then while we're cooking off those veggies, I'm just going to soften up some sun-dried tomatoes here. These are just the dehydrated ones, no oil again. So I've got 2 ounces of water with about 2 ounces of these tomatoes. I'm softening them up a little bit so they'll blend really nicely into our mixture. Get all that yummy flavor everywhere. Sun-dried tomatoes are such an awesome ingredient. They have such a punch of flavor with them. And now for our binding ingredients, I've got some oats, some cayenne, some nutritional yeast, salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I'm just going to buzz those up in the blender just to break down those oats a little bit. It's going to look just like that. So there's still a good texture to these. We're not pulverizing them by any means. And then I'm just going to dump in 2 drained and rinsed cans of white beans here. And we're going to pulse it on up real slowly. Just let it get blended a little bit. We don't want to pulverize it, like I said. I really enjoy having a little bit of the vegetable texture. So we're going to blend them a few more times. So I just barely incorporated them here. I'm putting them in a separate bowl so we can use our blender again to mix up our veggies. Once we've got that all spooned out of there, I'm not even going to rinse out the blender. I'm going to dump our cooked veggies right on in, blitz them up as well. We've got our roasted vegetables. They're just softened up a little bit and they've got a titch of brown on them. Get that yummy roasty flavor in there. I did salt and pepper these before I threw them in the oven if I didn't say that before. And now I'm just dumping in our sun-dried tomatoes with the water that they've been soaking in because that holds a ton of the flavor too. I'm adding a bit of fresh Italian flat leaf parsley to give it a nice fresh zing. And then I'm going to blitz this up a little bit, again keeping some big chunks so it's not just like a total paste when we're done with it. That's looking just about perfect. Get those greens mixed in really well. And now I'm just going to combine everything. Originally I thought it would be better to pour it into the bowl, and then I realized it'd be much better to put it back in the blender because that's what we're going to use to kind of incorporate again. A little bit easier than trying to mix it in a bowl that's not big enough. So I'm dumping that back in, and then I'm just going to pulse it just a couple times to combine everything. Here we have our mixture. It's a little on the wet side, which is exactly what you want because we are going to add some more whole oats. I'm just doing this in 3 sections here. I've got 1/3 of our mixture, which is a little bit wet and pasty, but still has a lot of really good chunks. I'm going to pour in altogether about 1/2 cup of oats. So I'm adding 1/3 of that 1/2 cup, mixing it together, and then I'm going to add the next and do the same process until we have all our batter in the bowl here. Those whole oats are going to give us a really good texture, and they're also going to absorb some of that extra liquid as we let it sit for a little while. A little bonus to cooking vegan: if this was raw hamburger meat, you definitely could not taste test to see if you seasoned it right. But since they're white beans, you can totally taste test, and I really recommend you do this. Give it a little try. Make sure your flavors are working well. Add more salt and pepper or garlic, depending on how you feel about it. This mixture is looking fabulous. We're just gonna cover this up once we've mixed everything together and put it in the fridge for about an hour, and it'll give our oats enough time to absorb all of that flavorful liquid and firm up our patties a little bit. So now that they've chilled out for a while, I've got my handy dandy ice cream scoop here. I'm going to fill it a little bit over full and then try to very awkwardly place my ice cream scoop somewhere in the frame here. I'm going to make a little patty out of each of these little scoops. And I'm just putting them on a silicone mat for now. I'm going to transfer these to a cookie sheet until I'm ready to grill or pan fry them. Either way works wonderfully. The really awesome thing about this recipe is you can either cook for a bunch of people, which is what I'm doing tonight, or you can meal prep with them and have them all together. I've got these little parchment papers here. You can put patties in between parchment paper and freeze them in your freezer or keep them in your fridge for at least a week until you're ready to cook them. And you've got fresh, whole food, plant-based burgers whenever you want them. It's awesome. They're great on a bun, of course, also great on a salad. Super versatile. So to cook mine, I either put it on the grill or on a hot skillet like so. It's just a dry skillet, so no oil again. Pressing it down. It's on medium heat for probably about 5 or 6 minutes. And I'm gonna flip it and get it brown on the other side. And then to enjoy these little gems here, I've got a whole wheat bun that I've toasted incredibly unevenly, but that's okay. Still gonna taste amazing. I am going to add a bit of yellow mustard to my bun, and then my secret ingredient is gonna make our burger super creamy and almost have like a cheese sauce like texture without using any processed oils, and that is a little bit of tahini dressing. So all I did is took about a tablespoon of tahini, added some water and nutritional yeast, salt and pepper, and that's your sauce. And it really goes so well with the white bean as well as the mustard. You won't miss the cheese, you won't miss the mayo, I totally promise. So I've also got some chunky red onions here and a large beefsteak tomato I'm gonna pile on. Then we're gonna add our burger, piece de resistance, white bean burger with sun-dried tomato and yummy veggies, all browned out and beautiful. And then for good measure, I'm gonna layer on a little bit more of that tahini dressing and a substantial amount of Clausen pickles because they are my favorite, and there's nothing like some dill and nice crunch on a burger. So that's all you have. Then the top of your bun, of course, and you are good to go. You've got the perfect whole food plant-based burger. No added oil, zero guilt, all the flavor. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe as much as I do. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.